In this episode of Discovering the Last Frontier, another cold snap hits the Kenai Peninsula, freezing up part of Bear Cove and challenging the sea otters as they make their way around the bight. After a Starlink move, I take a spill and have to limp into town for treatment 3 days later. After returning, progress on my project slowed to a standstill. I was basically a prisoner in my own home. Hampered by injury, I eventually had to leave the cove, wrapping up my February time at the retreat. I worked on setting up our Starlink for a good chunk of the day. Lots of issues with that, still not functioning, so I've got some emails into the help desk and waiting for a response there. So I'm still struggling with the Starlink, getting that up and running. So I'm going to take it and mount it on the roof, just get it to the highest point I can access. So I'll get it up there, mount it, and see if that improves the signal strength. I've done all the checks with the app, and it says that where I had it was a good view of the sky and it was a good spot to set it up, but performance has been pretty sketchy. So I'm going to make a run up here. One of the things I'm going to have to do, it's an 812 pitch metal roof. It can be a little difficult to stay on, so I'm going to take this torch. I'm going to get on the ladder. I'm going to torch the bottom of my boots, make sure they're perfectly dry, and soften them up just a bit so I got decent traction to haul up the tools and dish and everything else. So that's kind of my plan right now. Hopefully the next scene isn't me in the ER after trying to figure out how to finagle my way back to town by myself, which would be a challenge right now. It's been a rough few days here in Bear Cove. As you saw in the intro, I mentioned hopefully the next scene isn't me in a clinic, and boy, that would have been a better outcome. In fact, not too long after shooting that, I took a spill on some ice that was on an incline. Wrecked my right ankle pretty good to the point where I couldn't put any weight on it, couldn't walk, and as a result I spent 3 days here in Bear Cove with a limited supply of fuel for the generator, no ability to go get firewood, so it was pretty cold. I'd cycle power on just to basically do some calls for consulting. Had to crawl between the bed and the couch and the generator when I did cycle that on. Can't put any weight on my right foot, and after 3 days I was finally able to crawl down the hill, get to town, get crutches, get a walking boot, all that kind of stuff. So at least now it's stabilized, but it's been pretty miserable. I haven't been able to do much filming just because it's taken all of my energy just to get through the day basically here lately, but I'm getting a little bit better now. It's been 5 days, and plan on getting some video here over the next couple of days just to give you some insights into what's going on here in Bear Cove other than my stupidity as well as the injury that resulted. It's a cold morning back in Bear Cove. Sun's not quite up yet. Squirrels are making some noise. Heard a steller jay or two. Just looking out over the ice, I saw the normal rock here in the lower right hand corner, but then there was a small rock and a trail from the small rock back to the big rock. I'm looking. Little trail. Suddenly, small rock moves. I think my sea otter buddy might be stuck in the glue over there. Guess my morning's not starting out that badly. We had a relatively cold night in the cove last night. It dropped well below freezing. Ended up with 1/4 to 1/2 inch of ice on the cove. You can see that behind me now. The other interesting part when you have these huge tide swings is how as that tide goes out and the ice is on the surface, the water level goes down and that ice near shore gets all broken up as the water evacuates and the ice hits the bottom and the rocks and the mud and everything else. So along the entire shoreline here we have a bunch of little small fragments of ice, but out in the middle where the tide didn't get low enough for the ice to hit the bottom, it's one continuous sheet. So it makes for pretty cool looking scenery with the shore highlighted with the broken pieces of ice. The other cool thing is I can see the tracks of the sea otters as they've been eating clams around our little bight of the cove. So every, let's call it 20-30 feet in various meandering paths, I see where the sea otter dove down and then popped up 20 feet away, ate their clams, dove back down, popped up again. So there's these basically like footprints throughout the ice where the sea otters have been breaking through to eat their meal here this morning. The other thing that's going on is the ice is now shifting. So this ice is moving. You can imagine there's currents, so the water floods in, the water ebbs out. As that happens, it's shifting the whole sheet of ice that's continuous around within the cove. So I'm sitting here on the pier right now, and I'm literally feeling the pier shaking as that sheet of ice is coming in, hitting the posts, hitting our guide post for the gangway as well, and it's kind of breaking as it hits each of those pieces. So the whole pier right now is shaking a little bit as the ice mass kind of moves in and pushes on it. So anyways, really nice morning here. It's chilly. It's still below 30 degrees, but there is virtually no wind. Eagles, I'm hearing them constantly, seeing them fly around too. A lot of red squirrels, steller jays. I've got also a kingfisher on a tree over there that he's been diving down, mostly near shore where that ice is broken up. So beautiful morning and some interesting scenery, especially with the paths and the holes created by the sea otters. You can also see right now, it's very small on the screen, but there's actually a sea otter. That dark spot in the ice is a sea otter that's just kind of resting and eating, but you can see the path, from me out to the sea otter where it swam in kind of a curving fashion. Anyways, kind of cool to see. I basically have been tracking all the movements of the two sea otters when they dive down, pop back up, and when they swim on the surface, breaking up that ice. So just some interesting stuff in the cove this morning. So I'm just kind of looking out at the cove thinking I might have to make a run for town and try to get out of here now before it's too cold too long and I can't get through the ice. It's supposed to get down into the single digits over the next few days and then hold there for nearly a week. So that would be pretty detrimental for me. Anyways, I'm going to give it my best today to try to get packed up. I'm still in a walking boot, still on crutches, kind of struggling along a bit. But hopefully I can get down the hill without causing any further damage, get everything out to the boat, and get to town. Before I take off, I was hoping to feed my buddies a couple more times here. We'll see if they show up. Oh, there's one. Looks like I got 5 of them in here now, plus a squirrel. We'll see how many are actually willing to come up and eat. Looks like the one. This is Stella. Okay, I'll put some seed in their feeder over there, and I'm gonna start working on packing up. Well, here's the view from the sauna before I make my way out to the Bohemian Queen and head to town. I'm gonna try to take a bath. You can see it's very cold in here. I can't haul wood at the moment, so I'm stuck with a cold sauna. I heated up some water on the stove, carried it down here, and I'm gonna get a quick bath and then head to town. This one ain't gonna take long. Way too cold for that. I was in the otter's bight bedroom, just packing up my clothes before I leave for the day, and I looked out and there was a sea otter laying right outside the window in the tidal zone on some rocks, kind of pruning itself. Pretty cool. He's been rolling around there for a little while, so I thought I'd capture a little bit of footage for you. You can hear the eagle in the background as well. They've been very active this morning. Bear Cove froze up again. Not a terrible amount of ice, so I should be able to row through it. But anyways, here's some interesting footage of sea otter pruning itself on shore, which you don't see very often. They're in the water a vast majority of the time, and I've only seen them on land a handful of times. So pretty cool, unique experience. Shh. 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 I'm gonna make my way out of Bear Cove. So first thing I need to do is get down the hill without doing further damage to my ankle or breaking the other ankle in the process. So I've loaded up most of my gear in the inflatable kayak. I'm gonna launch that down the hill first. I hope I don't ruin that or anything in it. And then I will slide down the hill and hope for the best in that process. Once I'm down the hill, load up the kayak, paddle out to the Bohemian Queen, which is our fishing boat, and make my way to town. So it's my escape from Alcatraz. Wish me luck. Okay, I've got myself and all the gear in the kayak. I've got the dinghy up on the float for the next month. Got to get it up on the float because otherwise it'll fill with water when it rains, and eventually during the high tides it'll flood to the point where the high tides will come in and really do some damage to it. So I had to get it up on the float, got that taken care of, and now I'm paddling. Sorry for the view. It's the only thing I can really do right now with a whole pile of bags on my lap, and I'm very top heavy. This is not comfortable at all. So I need to do everything I can to balance here as I'm slowly paddling out. I eventually paddled around the ice, was able to gain access to the Bohemian Queen, and safely board. Thankfully, I was able to get all my gear on the boat and get the kayak on the boat as well without losing anything. It was an uneventful trip into town with a lot of time to reflect on the past week. Maintaining a warm shelter, fueling up the generator, preparing meals, even going to get a glass of water were all a significant challenge this week. That said, there were still several experiences I'm thankful I had, and will make sure to cherish those as I think about this week down the road. Now that I'm in town, I plan to meet up with a couple of friends and enjoy the last few days of February in the last frontier. Thanks for joining me today on Discovering the Last Frontier. I hope you join me again in the next episode.